Case study 5, Transocean. In the previous module, we talked about bad companies and value traps. And in that module, we touched on range of outcomes. In range of outcomes, we distinguished between options, trades, and typical businesses. And in this case study, we will use the example of Transocean to illustrate the difference between them. So we will talk about stacked fragility. So the setup in Transocean had a number of fragilities layered on each other. We will talk about the result in Transocean equity being a function of day rates. We will explain debt fragility. We will explain a concept from options, time decay. And ultimately, we will show how the equity of Transocean was a levered play on day rates. So in April of 2023, I published a piece called Why I Don't Like Transocean. And at the time, there was a lot of positivity around the offshore sector. That means offshore drilling, and specifically in shares of Transocean. So Transocean is the biggest offshore drilling company. And to an extent, I found that many shareholders were behaving as if they were in a cult. So in a sea of misplaced bullishness and misconceptions on the offshore sector in this company, I published this piece. And the subject to the email was a pre-bankruptcy offshore driller. It was to show the severity of my conclusion on this company that it is going for bankruptcy. These are two quotes from that piece that I chose to explain here. The level of capex needed to keep these assets operational, the cyclicality of utilization, the cyclicality of day rates, and as a result, the cyclicality of profitability, the depreciation, as well as the constant financing requirements and interest expense required to stay afloat, makes the equity of Transocean like a way out of the money option with time decay. So here we are with the optionality aspect. As I said in the previous module, we taught on range of outcomes, options, trades, and other businesses. Let's finish off the other quote before we go deeper into that. So I concluded with this: you stand to make a killing in the chance that day rates move very far, very fast and stay there, or stand to get killed if things move sideways from here. So obviously I put Transocean in the option type bet, and I used option terminology here to explain what the bet was. I was saying that the equity of Transocean is like a way out of the money option. So deep out of the money with fast time decay, which means that not only is the option way out of the money, it's losing value very, very fast. And obviously concludes from that you stand to make a killing, in which case if day rates move in the money very fast, Transocean starts to print money, starts to pay down its debt, transform its balance sheet, and all that very, very extreme scenario, because day rates had to move very far and very fast, you will make a killing or stand to get killed if things move sideways. Now, why did I say sideways? I said sideways because I didn't say down. I said sideways because even if they move sideways, then they are out of the money, in which case they are still losing money and time goes against them. Now, the first layer is explaining cyclicality. The major trap, one of the major traps that investors fell into when practically falling in love with this company and this equity, was cyclicality. So obviously this is cyclicality. And investors thought, oh, we are buying a great company with incredible assets at low cycle. We are not buying them at high cycle. So day rates can only move up from here. Day rates is what oil majors, companies that charter offshore drillers, what they pay per day to rent basically these assets. And they can only move up from here, and maybe they can even go to $1 million, because in the previous cycle they went there and inflation adjusted, they can go up to this level, and so on and so forth. And if this happens, then Transocean will print this amount of money and their assets are irreplaceable. No one is building these high technology last generation drillers because they cost a lot of money, and shipyards aren't building them anyway, and it's going to take 5 years. Therefore, supply of these assets is fixed, but demand can only go up. Okay. Well, in my piece, I tried to argue that things are not as simple. Don't be so linear, as I like to say. And that while the previous slide showed the expectation of cyclicality, this was the reality of cyclicality. So